Good morning. I've been asked to substitute for Rabbi Bechhofer in the Arukh HaShulchan shir for the next few days. Needless to say, I am not nearly at Rabbi Bechhofer's stature as a Talmid Chacham, and certainly not as a posek. And I will do my best to live up to his standards. I also have the great fortune of being thrown into what is possibly one of the most difficult simanim in Hilchos Pesach, but I will do my best to do justice. So we're starting over here this morning, Siman Tuf Mem Beis, that's 442, Dine Teruvos Chametz v'Chametz Nuksha. These are the halachos of mixtures that include chametz and chametz nuksha. And let's wait till we get further on in the siman to see how the Arukh HaShulchan defines chametz nuksha. So Sif Aleph, B'davar sheyesh taruves chametz, something which contains a mixture of chametz, hu plukta de tanoi, there is a machlokas, a disagreement among the Tanoim, B'Psachim and Meseches Psachim. Desanya, we learned there in a brisa, Al Chametz Dagon Gamor, on complete chametz that comes from grain, Onish Kares, if you eat it, the punishment is Kares. Al Eruvo, if you eat the chametz mixed up with other things, Belav. The transgression is only a lav, it's just a prohibition. The punishment will be malchus, but there is no punishment of kares. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer, that's Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. V'chachamim omrim, according to the chachamim, al chametz dagon gomer anash kares, again, as the Torah says explicitly, if it's complete chametz, the punishment is kares, al eruvo below klum. But if the chametz is mixed up in something else, then it's nothing. Klomer, meaning she'ein kan lav. When he says it's nothing, he just means it's not, doesn't have the status of a lav. One would not get malchus for eating it. Rak isura ba'alma, there's just a prohibition, but nothing more than the fact you've transgressed a prohibition. There's no punishment whatsoever. V'amrin and sham besugya, the Gemara says there also, Dikshiyesh kizayis min hachametz b'chdei achilas pras min hataruvos. If you have enough chametz in the mixture, that would be considered to be a kizayis b'chdei achilas pras, and that means that within a quantity of 3 bayim, of 3 eggs worth of whatever you're eating, there is a kizayis of chametz. So that's considered as if you're eating a full kizayis of chametz, and then hakol modim shechayev, everybody would agree that you're guilty for eating that. Now we'll talk later on about guilty and what status of guilt. V'yachid v'rabim halacha karabim, and in a machlokes between an individual and a majority, the halacha is like the majority. We go like the chachamim. That's what the Rambam writes in his commentary on the Mishnah. De'en halacha Rabbi Eliezer, that we do not paskin like Rabbi Eliezer. V'chein kasav harav, the Bartanura says so also. Sif Beis, v'chein pasuk harif sham, the Rif paskins that way there as well. V'zel l'shona, this is what the Rif says. Afagav da amar rabbanan eruva below klum, even though the Rabbanan said that if the chametz is mixed up in something else, and again, where you don't have a kazayas b'chdei achilas pras, it's nothing, but that means is milku dulo lucky, that there is no malchus. Avli yisura ika, but you are still transgressing a prohibition. V'chi amri rabbanan nami dulo lucky, and when the Rabbanan said you don't get malchus, hani mili, that's talking about hecha deleka kazayas b'chdei achilas pras, where again, that within the quantity of 3 bayim, you don't eat a kazayas of chametz. Kagon kuta chabavli, which is a mixture of bread and sour cream and other things, ukiyotzebo, and similar types of foods. But where there is a kazayas b'chdei achilas pras, afilu l'rabbanan lucky, even the Rabbanan would agree that you get malchus ad kan l'shono. That's end quote of the Rif. V'chein kasav HaRambam, Perak Aleph Din Vav V'zel Lashono. The Rambam says, Ein chayav in kares el al chilas atzmo shel chametz, that you only get kares if you eat the chametz itself. Aval eruv chametz, but a mixture involving chametz can go in kutach habavli, v'shecher hamadai. Those are different types of foods. Ukiyotze and similar foods. Im achlam bepesach. If you ate them on Pesach loke, you get malchus. Ve'ein bo kares, but there is no kares. Shenemer, as it says, kol machmetzes lo sochelu. Any leavened food you should not eat. But medvar mamurim, what we're talking about over here is kisha'achol kazayis chametz betocha taruvos b'chdei achilas shlosha beim, where when you ate within the mixture a whole kazayis of chametz within a quantity of 3 beim of all of the food entirely. That's hu shalokim min Torah. That's when from the Torah there is a punishment of malchus. But within the mixture, you do not have a kazayis of chametz within 3 beim of the other food, even though eating it is still prohibited, but if you did eat it, you do not get malchus from the Torah. Elamakin also makas mardus, you just get rabbinic malchus. Ad kan lashona. Hareshet Dvorv Kediver Rif Karabanan. So the Rambam is passing like the Rif and like the Rabbanan in their argument with Rabbi Eliezer. V'afal pi shekosov kazayis b'chdei achilas pras al kutach habavli. Even though we use kutach habavli as an example of a food that has the kazayis b'chdei achilas pras, the reality is b'kutach ein bo kazayis b'chdei achilas pras. The general way kutach habavli is made, there is no kazayis b'chdei achilas pras. V'aldav sigo harayvad, and the Rayvad even comments about that. V'zel l'shono, the Rayvad writes, harav pasak be'elu k'rabbanim mishum she'en behen kazayis b'chdei achilas pras, that the Rambam is pasking here like the Rabbanan, because in these foods there is no kazayis b'chdei achilas pras. Ad kan l'shono. Amnam harambam lo nochas azev pratei ha'macholim. The Rambam wasn't getting into the details of the exact ingredients of these foods. He was just trying to tell us the rule. If there is a chazayis b'chdei achilas pras, then the punishment is malchus. Vimlo, and if not, havi iser ba'alma, it's just a prohibition, but there is no malchus. Sif Gimel. V'zeh shehevi kra dechol machmetzes lo sochelu. The Rambam, who brought down the pasuk of kol machmetzes lo sochelu, to tell you that when you're eating this mixture of chametz with the kazayis b'chdei achilas pras, you get malchus and not kares. And even the Rambam again was passing like the Rabbanan. Afagaf de begamar Rabbi Eliezer ma'aseh mehach kra l'kashe'ein bo kazayis b'chdei achilas pras. Even though the Gemara quoted this pasuk, it was in support of Rabbi Eliezer's position when there is not a kazayis b'chdei achilas pras. V'lo l'Rabbanan, it was not, this pasuk was not quoted in the Gemara when it explained the opinion of the Rabbanan. Because the reality is we don't need any pasuk to tell you that if there's a kazayis b'chdei achilas pras of chametz, that you would get malchus. Because the b'chol ha'isurim hadin kain, because that's the halacha by all prohibited foods, that a kazayis b'chdei achilas pras is considered to be that the food is there and present at this particular point in time. So there is no chiddush that you would be chayav. I just received a message actually that Rabbi Bechafer's father was nifter Baruch Dayan Emes. Sorry to throw it out there like that. B'kfar hikshul of Ramban b'Sefer HaMitzvos, the Ramban asked in the Sefer HaMitzvos for Magid Mishnah as well as the Magid Mishnah, the kivan sheyesh kazayis b'chdei achilas pras, that when there is a kazayis b'chdei achilas pras, pshita shegam kares yesh. It would seem obvious that there should even be a punishment of kares. not just malchus. The zeh chametz kamor, that's absolute chametz. Very bechol ha'isurim kenu. That's the way it is by all other prohibitions of food. Kishayesh kazayis bechdei achilas pras. So when you have a kazayis bechdei achilas pras, chayiv kamosha davar ha'asur hu below taruvas klal. It's no different than if there's no mixture whatsoever. So why is it that the Rambam writes that over here you only get malchus when you're eating a kazayis bechdei achilas pras? L'chayra, you should be getting kares just as if you were eating chametz straight out. That's the Ramban's question of the Rambam in the Sefer HaMitzvos. Sif Dalet. Aval emes, but the truth is, the Shitas HaRambam hu gam bechol isurei kares, that the opinion of the Rambam is that by all things for which the punishment is generally kares, the al taruvos ha'isr, that if there is a mixture, af sheyesh bo chazayis bechdei achilas pras, even if there is a kedayis b'dei achilas pras, ein bo rak malchus, the punishment is only malchus, v'lo kares, and not kares. So it's not just over here that the Rambam says that, v'zav zabir, b'reish perik tesvav, me'acholos yisuros, v'zel l'shono, in Macholos Yisuros, so the Rambam is talking about other prohibited foods. He writes, Ketzad hu ma'masho, discussing chalev, prohibited fats. He says, what's considered to be the substance of the chalev? Kegon shahaya min ha'chalev kezayis b'chol gimel beim min ha'taruvos. That if within 3 beim of the mixture, over there he's talking about some sort of a porridge, if you have a kazayas of fat within 3 bayim, since you did eat a kazayas of the fat, Loki, you get malchus. Because the taste of the prohibited food and its substance is there. Ad kan l'shono. Eating the prohibited fats, the punishment is kares. While koza still eno eloloka, if you ate it in a mixture, the Rambam is saying you get malchus, even though again there's a kazayas bechdei achilas pras. The Arukh HaShulchan says he explains the Rambam in Yerideo. And the sources from the Gemara Maseches Avodah Zarah, that kol shetamo umamasho, whenever you have the taste of the prohibited food and its substance, usher, it's prohibited, v'lokan alav, and you get malchus. V'nir la Rambam, it appears that the Rambam holds that mide'eno omer gam v'chayavin kares, since the Rambam didn't add, and you would get kares, be'isser kares, when the prohibition is kares, shmamina, you see, dal taruvos, that when you're dealing with a mixture, lekol olam kares, there is no punishment of kares, afilu b'chzayis b'chdei achilas pras, even if this is chzayis b'chdei achilas pras, echiyeshon levar, but we still need to explain minayin lo zeh. Where did the Rambam get this idea that when there's a chzayis b'chdei achilas pras, the worst that can be is a punishment of malchus and not kares? Sifhei. V'nir lani as daiti, it appeared to me that we're learning all other prohibitions with regards to getting malchus in a mixture from chametz. According to Rabbi Eliezer, the pasuk is telling you that on a mixture, even if there's not a chazayis b'chdei achilas pras, you would get malchus. V'omer sham, and it says there, kol machmetzas lo sochelu, l'rabos, that pasuk is coming to include kutach habavli. Now, we already explained earlier, kutach habavli does not have a kazayis b'chdei achilas pras. Yochel ye'anish kares, I might think the punishment is kares. Tamaloma, the pasuk says, ki chol ochel chametz v'nikrasa, if you eat chametz, you get kares. Al chametz dagan gomor, only on complete chametz of grain, anish kares is the punishment of kares, but ali ruvo, on a mixture, belav, you get a lav. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer, it's Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. Rambam. Therefore, the Rambam is of the opinion, Degam Rabbanan, also the Rabbanan, Yalfi mi pasuk zeh, learn from this pasuk al taruvos de kazayis bechdei achilas pras, that in a mixture which does have a kazayis bechdei achilas pras, ve'ein halimud al chiyav halav. We don't need the pasuk to tell you that there's a lav when you eat chametz on a kazayis bechdei achilas pras. There's a lo itzrach. For that you need no pasuk. Lo griya chametz b'kol yisurim. Chametz is no worse than all other isurim that you can't eat a kazayis bechdei achilas pras. Ela liftor mikaris. But the Rambam is still learning from this pasuk that when you do eat a kazayis bechdei achilas pras of chametz, then there is no kares. Mikra from the pasuk to ochel chametz v'nichrasa. The dafka al chametz gomor, only on complete chametz, below taruvos without a mixture. Kimoli Rabbi Eliezer, just like Rabbi Eliezer, bepachos mechdei achilas pras, he holds as a lav. The Rambam says no, there has to be a kazayis bechdei achilas pras, but still it's only a lav and not kares. Ubir inil anias daiti kenu. The explanation of this, it would seem to me, is the name beparshas hachodesh hazel lachem ksiv. It writes over there gimel azharos, 3 prohibitions. Chametz with regards to chametz. Mikodem ksiv, first it writes, ki chol ochel chametz v'nichrasa. Anybody eats chametz gets kares. V'achachach ksiv, then it writes, ki chol ochel machmetzes v'nichrasa. Anybody eats anything unleavened will get kares. V'darshinan la b'gemara, and we explained the Gemara this is referring to, al shenes chametz machmas davar acher, something that became chametz through an external agent. The lo be'inan shehe chimatz me'atzmo, we don't need that the leavening takes place from the grain-based food itself. V'achar chachsiv, then it says, also kol machmetzes lo sochelu, lahoros, to indicate sheyesh min chametz, that there is a type of chametz, she'en bo el lav, for which there is only a lav, v'lo kares and not kares. The lekel meimer, we can't say dahach kra'asolas hara, that this pasuk is just coming for the generic lav for eating chametz. Kema b'chola onshin, like by all punishments, we have a rule lo onash hakasav elam kein hizir, that there is no punishment for any avera unless there is a lav. The lazeh, because the lav for chametz ksiv kra'achrina, there's a different pasuk. The parshas kadesh, in the parsha of kadesh likol b'chor. V'lo ye'echel chametz, that chametz should not be eaten. Elavadai dahach dechol machmetzas lo sochelu. So therefore, this seemingly otherwise superfluous pasuk of kol machmetzas lo sochelu, asi le'ruye, is coming to teach us sheyesh min chametz, that there is a type of chametz she'enu ela belav, which is only a lav. Ve'zuhu taruvos chametz, that is a mixture of chametz. LeRabbi Eliezer, according to Rabbi Eliezer, b'she'en kazayis bechdei achilas pras, even without a kazayis bechdei achilas pras. LeRabbanan kisheyesh kazayis bechdei achilas pras, according to the Rabbanan, only when there is. Umechametz, and now from chametz, lamadnu l'chol yisurim, we learn from all the prohibitions that, for example, when you eat chelev, unkosher fats, if it's in a mixture, even if there's a kazayis bechdei achilas pras, the punishment is only a lav and not kares.